Hello again, welcome to class number 2, as we look at how elements and principles are used to create designs. So, let's get going. So, the elements it must have are lines, and these vary from straight to curve. It must have shapes. These two are different from geometric or organic. It must have space, and we have either negative or positive. It also must have texture. These can be tactile or non-tactile. And it must have color, everybody's most favorite and feared element. Now, color goes in varied forms. These we go into specifically, whether primary, secondary, warm, cool, or complementary or analogous. So we have a lot different sections that we can deal with color. Now, so with keeping the elements in mind, let's take a look at how principles are used to allow elements to share an idea. This is an area where most students always fail. They hate or do not always at times like to look at references. But my advice is always look at a reference. This only allows your language to develop a lot better. Just like is always said, the more you read, the better your language will develop. So in art, the more you look at references, the stronger your art language will be. Now, let's take a look how nature creates and uses the elements and the principles to create your art eye, which makes your art language a whole lot better. So, let's start with lines as our element. Now, principles, remember our actions done, tells us how to use these elements to create this design. So if we look at this picture, let's see if we can identify how our elements are used in this picture, along with our principles to create a visual composition. Now, when we look at lines, the first thing we will notice is that a line starts from one point to the next. So that movement creates that connection from a point A to a point B, start to an end. Notice is that on the leaves, line starts within those veins. Now, looking on the leaves, what principle is created or is used with these lines to create this image? So let's see. The first principle that we can notice is repetition, or what I call rhythm or movement. So lines are repeated, and these repeated lines create the veins for these leaves. Now we will call these our details. So you'll see where there is more than one line being used, so the line is repeated. Movement is created because it starts from one point and it goes to the next. The second principle used is balance. Now, balance identifies whether it is equal on both sides, meaning exactly the same or a mirror image of it. Now, this is referred to as symmetrical balance. Now, the balance can also be asymmetrical, meaning having two halves or two sides that are not exactly the same. We can identify that either by size or by amount, the number of it. So one side can have more or less than the other side, or it can be larger or smaller than the other side. Which brings up the next principle that lines can oftentimes use, which is proportion, especially in this image. Now, proportion refers to the size of an item, compared to another item. Now, line in terms of proportion are referred to as either being thick or thin, or long or short. So if we look at the image, we'll identify that proportions vary between the thickness of some lines and the thinness of some lines. Also, the length, meaning how long lines are or how short they are. Take some time at our practical class to look at how we do a design using lines and these principles, or our element line and these principles. So go on for practical lines. See you then at another art class with Mr. P. This was Art with Mr. P. For questions, comments, or any help you need with artwork, just visit us on Facebook. We'll be happy to aid you in any way we can. Thanks for watching. Have an art day.